Hopefully folks can see my screen. Gareth's going to help me out with this because, yeah, I promised I was going to do this session probably a month or so ago, and then I procrastinated because it's what I do. And then I got a nudge off Simon probably about a week and a half ago. I thought, oh, better get started. So this is the first airing of a session that I've kind of been thinking about delivering for quite some time. And I kind of put out some messages on Twitter and said, would people be interested in a thing about kind of presentation skills, public speaking? Because I know it's a really big thing for a number of people. And I remember when I first went to the Yorkshire VMUG way back in the days when the Yorkshire VMUG still existed. And it was I'd kind of sit at the back of the room and not really engage with anything. And I really wanted to be that person up front, but I basically didn't have the cojones to do it. And so I kind of forced myself to get out of the comfort zone a little bit, and I've been continuously doing that ever since. And it's generally been pretty good for my career. It's also a lot of fun. So I kind of wanted to put something together to help people who might want to improve their skills. I'm not saying the way I do things is perfect. This is just basically my experiences, what I've learned over the past few years of standing up in front of a room of people or in front of a camera in this situation and talking about stuff. So with that in mind, there we go. My clicker's already stopped working. Let's try this one again. There we go. So I've already failed one of my tests for later in this. So yeah, with that in mind, I just kind of wanted to say, this is a presentation about presentations, which I thought was quite meta. So those who are fans of Christopher Nolan will understand what that means. Also, a disclaimer: this is not in any way, shape, or form a technical presentation. The whole idea behind this is that it's basically to help people, whatever it is that they want to speak about. If they want to speak about flower arranging, or the things that they're interested in, ham radio, whatever. I guess that's kind of technical. The idea is that this should apply to everything. You will not see any CLI in here. There will be no screenshots. It's just me talking about stuff, and Gareth's going to chip in as well. He's got a bunch of stuff as well. And the whole idea behind this is we're going to take this around VMUGs. It's going to grow as a session. And I think I saw Wouter Kirsten's on the he is here as well. So he's going to join in with these as well. It's just a little bit kind of short notice to get three of us together. What I am going to try my best to do is finish this bang on time, because I know people want their prizes, because I know Andy Nash is here, and we all want to go home on time or get onto the beers. Unfortunately, I've got calls with the US almost immediately after this. So with that said, this is me. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Kev Johnson. I am a 6-time V expert. I work in tech marketing for Runecast, who are a software provider. That's not really important. I'm not here on behalf of Runecast. I'm here as a community member right now. I am a recovering sysadmin and a technical architect. So I did a lot of, I headed up a team of consultants for a number of years, and then I jumped ship, went to work for VMware, worked for VMware for 18 months or so, and then I ended up at Runecast. And it's great to kind of have that background. I've worked a lot of time like doing things like help desk, so I kind of like to think that I've got a really good set of experience when it comes to talking about the technical side of things, especially when it comes to the customer experience. I am a recovering certifications addict. I've done one certification in the past 12 months. I did 5 the previous 12 months. And in the 12 months prior to that, I think I did 18. So I'm slowly weaning myself off. I think next year I'm probably going to do 2, but I can't quite go cold turkey yet. I am also a proud Twitter addict. So if anyone's got any follow-up, or they just want to basically troll me, you can find me on Twitter as @Kev_Johnson. I am a periodic podcaster. So we haven't put an episode out in quite some time, but we do still have our intentions of doing this. So I'm one of the hosts of the Open Tech Cast podcast, along with a bunch of people. I think everyone else is a kind of core London VMUG member. So I'm just a token northern of that. I'm a general rent-a-mouth, so I will talk about anything, and that's probably one of the reasons that I'm here. And my first London VMUG was in April 2018. So back in April 2018, I was kind of looking for something to do. I'd already done one VMUG talk for the Northeast VMUG the previous autumn, and I got bitten, and I was like, right, okay, this is great. I love this feeling of just standing and talking to people or talking at people. That was, you can still get the slides and stuff. That was quite a fun presentation on an incredibly dry topic, which was GDPR. So I know some of the people who were in the audience that day are here today as well. So thanks for that. I'm just going to hand over to Gareth to introduce himself.
So hi, everyone. I'm not only here as part of the committee today, I'm actually trying to help everyone out here. Like Kev, I'm a 6-time V expert. And along with that, once Kev clicks, which he has, he's beat me to it, I'm one of the resident V expert pros until any announcements come out for the UK. I'm also, like Kev, I actually work for Ringcast. We're not here to try and win you over. I'm one of the systems engineers, or as we've seen some really interesting, what do you do on your census? I nearly did put down Code Monkey, but I'm sure that would have upset someone somewhere officially. Before that, I was a system admin for a lot of well-known companies, be that charities, big companies that you might buy utilities from. Yeah, been there, done that, got burnt many late nights. And that's where the next line comes from. I'm a recovering event addict. I can't even remember when the first time I come to a London VMUG was, though. It was that long ago. I just know we were in a building way before the current one. And yes, as terrible it is, as much an introvert, I am missing in-person events. Roll on the next VM World. If you want to catch me out on something, I'm on Twitterverse. We don't have Jane here. She tells us to use Twitterverse more. At Gareth Edwards 86. I'm also doing the podcast with Kev. We promise we will be back on air soon. I'm not doing very well at the cat herding. Whoops comes to mind. And if I'm not ranting about tech, many of you will be bored about me talking about my EV or eco stuff, and I still blame Joe Bagley and many of the other London VMuggers for the reason why I have what's on my driveway, and now why I have a very large, basically UPS on the side of my house.
Hope that doesn't blow up or anything like that. That would be bad stuff, right?
No, it would be bad, but it's been quite nice the fact we have had some power cuts, and I've just been able to sit here, carry on working with no care in the world.
You can go off people, right? So yeah, just to kind of set a little bit of an agenda, we're going to kind of take you from the idea of, where do you start? How do you figure out what you're going to speak about? And that's quite a privileged place to be. And sometimes, usually for your job, you'll just get told that you're going to deliver a talk on a thing. And that's fine, but if you're going to do it as something to kind of get some experience, maybe you're going to do it at a VMUG, we can help you figure out where you need to begin, how you structure your content, how you put your actual presentation together. So there's a lot of preparation and things like that to do. Some tips on what you can do to rehearse to help just make sure that everything is ready, and if anything trips you up on as you go through the presentation, you're going to be in a good place. One of the things that rehearsal can really help with actually is timekeeping, and one of the things that I discovered really early on was that when I get nervous, and everyone gets nervous before they do these things, by the way, so if anyone is worried about stage fright or anything like that, everybody gets it. If you're at VMworld and you've got 500 people, you still get stage fright. It's the same as if you're talking to 3 or 4 people in a room. It's absolutely fine. But one of the things that I noticed happened is that I would naturally speak quicker. So what I actually ended up doing was I would record myself doing sessions, sometimes as a rehearsal, sometimes I'd just force myself to watch them after the event. And that really helped me to realize, the things that I need to improve. So just taking more breaths, making sure that I'm actually covering all of the stuff that I need to cover and not going off on tangents, looking out for ticks and trigger words, and fillers and things like that. So everybody has them. I know I still have them, but it's a constant thing to do to kind of help improve the process. Talk about the kind of equipment you might be using. Now, if you're if we were doing things in person back in London, then the kit is pretty much there. You might take a laptop with you. You might have a little clicker like this, but that's probably everything that you need there. If you're doing things online, then the things that you need to be aware of are slightly different. We're going to talk about doing the thing, which is kind of it's what it's all about. This session is actually doing the presentation, and then we'll look at some things that you might want to do afterwards, and that might include things like forcing yourself to watch your presentation over and over and over again until you get over that thing, which is that nobody can stand listening to their own voice recorded. So yeah, you've got to do those things. So I guess where we start is where we start, and this is really, really simple. People overthink this a lot, but in terms of where you start, you just need to think, what story do you want to tell? Because every presentation that you do is you telling a story, and it doesn't matter whether it's whether the story is, this is how you do this stuff, this is how you deploy this technology, this is how you manage these devices. You just
to mute by accident.
Am I the only person who can't
Muted himself? No, Kev has muted himself.
No, I just managed to hit something. Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah. That was obviously deliberate.
Yep.
Well done. That was good.
Yeah. Who knows how I did that? I wasn't even touching my equipment there. That came out wrong, didn't it? But yeah, see, we're telling a story, so it doesn't matter whether you're talking about how your project went from one place to another place, which technologies you're using. You're just telling a story, and when you couch it like that, it really helps to put some structure in. And there we go. That's the next thing that's broken. So let's try that one again. There we go. And so one of the first things I want to point out is that this guy, Steve Jobs, it's a fairly well-known quote, is that people who know what they're talking about don't need PowerPoint. For the rest of us mortals, we're probably going to be stuck with it for a little bit. But I see you there, Andrew Nash, silently judging my bookshelf. My bookshelf is great. It's just got loads of travel books on there. Anywho, back to this. So yeah, the PowerPoint is the one place most people start when they think about a presentation. It's like, okay, I need a presentation. You open PowerPoint and then you go, okay, where's my inspiration? And people make bad presentations by doing that. So one of the things I wanted to kind of cover here was that you don't start with PowerPoint. PowerPoint is actually about halfway through the process, and I'll show you how I built the structure for this. I say I built the structure. Gareth helped out. Wouter helped out. So this is a thing that we put together. A bit of kind of just some work we put together. Consider the style and length. It's really easy to build something and think, okay, well, maybe I need to break it down into 4 or 5 different sections, and each one of those sections needs to be this long. You don't really need to think about it in that depth, but you do need to think, okay, how long is the session? And so you've got kind of markers in your mind that kind of show you, let's say, for instance, you get 2/3 of the way through your content and you realize you've only got 5 minutes left. You've got a problem at that point, because you either need to skip some content or you need to go through it very quickly. So you need to have these markers in your mind so you know exactly when you've kind of crossed those lines, and just keep an eye on the clock. The words on the slide are there basically as a framework. They're there to keep you on track. You do not need to put all of the text that you're going to, basically everything that you're going to say on those slides. Now, I know we've all been at events where every time a slide goes up, someone holds up an iPad and takes a photo of the slide. So for those people, it might be beneficial to have all of the content on the slide, but generally when you're doing a presentation, you need to either have everything on the slide and people won't be listening to you, or everyone needs to be listening to you, and then nobody's looking at the slides. So it's really important, if you're adding any value there, you're not just stood there. Oh, Bob McDonnell entered the waiting room. Don't know who Bob is. It's really important that you're not just stood there reading off a list of words, because it's not compelling. People will not pay attention to it. And there we go. Bob is he's taken the focus from, there we go. Also, live demos are cool. I love live demos, and I love doing them all the time. If you're going to do a live demo, please, for the love of God, make sure you've got a canned demo version of it as well, especially if you need to connect over a VPN to a remote lab somewhere in order to deliver that demo, because the Wi-Fi in the places that you're presenting can be terrible. All kinds of things go wrong. It's always really important to have a failback. But also, don't think that just because you've got a cool piece of technology, and this is probably a little bit more specific to technology than anything else, but just because you've got a cool new program and you want to tell people how it works, just running through some CLI isn't necessarily the best way of delivering that. Sometimes a diagram or a video makes more sense, but just be aware, if you are going to do live demos, you must sacrifice a goat to the demo gods, otherwise things will go badly. But most importantly, and this is going to be a theme, I want you to tell a story. I'm going to hand over to Gareth for this bit because it's time for me to have some tea.
Awesome. Well, yeah, this is a really pertinent slide for me. Is I wouldn't be where I am today giving this talk, and I certainly wouldn't be a leader. I'm going to call out all my co-leaders here, and also people who aren't with us and have moved on. You've got to throw your hat in the ring. You've got to commit to this. I did it, and as Kev said, it is terrifying at first. Getting that thing in a diary, committing to it, sending that form, you will sweat, you will panic afterwards, but trust me, it's worth it. And how do you start some of these things? Is it work? Is it setting a meeting up with your colleagues and saying, I want to talk about this subject? I put down here local user group. Sometimes it's talking, well, it's better talking to strangers. Going, you part of the fear with some people when I've been coaching them is that they're so scared what their peers will think of them by giving this talk. So maybe go somewhere else, go to a VMA, go to a local user group or something like that where you can give a talk. And it doesn't even have to be on that subject. Again, something that I've heard renounced again and again is Toastmasters. I know there's people on here that have done it. It's something I still want to look into, because I once you get into this, you will realize you will still have to get better, and there's many ways of doing this. Even what we're doing today, me and Kev, we are getting better in the process by doing this. One thing that I look out for is look out for the VMUG call to papers. I got into this via the VFaction many years ago, where we only had to do it for 10 minutes. Lightning talk, we're all up there and everyone voted on our talks. Yes, it added a bit of scariness to it, but at the same point, 10 minutes to then get possibly what I think was quite a set of cool prizes at the time. Sometimes incentives work. So if you're trying to mentor someone through it, maybe say, right, I'll take you to lunch, or, get something out of it. Or, if you're crazy like me, you then move on to silly things like going to talk at VMworld or AWS or Ignite, or dare I say it, you can shoot for the moon and go for a TED talk. I don't think I'll ever get there. I would love to get there one day, but at the same point, you look at those people and, they will go through the same set of nerves and same prep what you're going through right now. It's no different. They've potentially just done this quite a few times and have just learned the skills.
Yeah. And I guess kind of just to kind of cycle back a little bit, I mentioned before you even get started with PowerPoint, you need to come up with some way of figuring out how things are going to plug together. And this, what you see on screen here is it's the mind map that we used while we were building this session. So we've got the cover. We've basically decided, let's dump all of our thoughts into one place, and then from there we'll kind of figure out how they plug together. And spending that time, I think we probably spent 2 or 3 hours between us, just kind of dropping all of our brains into that, and then building that structure. And then from there, then you're allowed to open PowerPoint. And that's a really important thing, is, don't touch PowerPoint until you have that structure, until you have that story that you're looking to deliver. So yeah, you may now open PowerPoint. And I was looking for a nice image of Clippy, but it turns out there are no nice images of Clippy, so you just got some paper clips instead. So in terms of putting together your slides, there's a few things that I always try to do whenever I'm building a presentation. The first thing is to introduce myself. People are here to listen to what you want to say. They want to know who you are. So it doesn't have to be massively in depth. You don't have to cover lots and lots, what your kids' names are. In fact, please don't do that. It'd be a terrible thing to do from an InfoSec perspective. But once you've introduced yourself, it will really help to relax you, and it will put the audience at ease as well. And relaxing is really important, because again, one of the other things that I found that happens when people get nervous, and again, everyone gets nervous, is that you speak too quickly and your breathing goes out of whack. And if your breathing goes out of whack, and I've done this myself a number of times, you'll find yourself halfway through a statement and you'll have to stop and just go, okay, and then you carry on. And it's not a fun thing to happen. It kind of feels a little bit like a panic attack. So relaxing is really important. You then set your agenda, and this doesn't have to be a really strict a really strict agenda. It can just be, we're going to talk about this thing and why I care about it. That's all it has to be. Maybe if you're doing a longer presentation, you might want to build something that's kind of a little bit more structured, because that might help you, again, in your head, have those markers so that okay, right, well, we've got to this point in the presentation, and I know that we've got 20 minutes of content and we've only got 18 minutes left. Maybe we'll speed things up a little bit so that I can cover everything without having to absolutely gallop through the last bits. So setting your agenda is really important. Tell your story. And that's the thing. You're doing the thing, you're telling your story. You go all the way through all of the stuff that you've already planned because you've built out your mind map, or however you've built that structure. You can now just put it all together. You can build some slides, you can find some cool images, some videos, some memes. Memes always go down really well. And again, I find that the memes help me to relax, they help an audience to relax. But yeah, just tell the story. And if it's something you're passionate about, this should be the easy part. And then you get all the way to the end and you wrap up and you're done. Unless there's going to be a Q&A. And often it seems to be good form to try to keep a little bit of time at the end to kind of cover off a question and answers. Because the worst thing that can happen is you get to the end and you go, okay, has anybody got any questions? And nobody says anything, and you go, great, okay, everybody's just got 10 minutes of their life back. You can go have a coffee. Yeah, great. Alternatively, you get 10 minutes of questions. The third option, which seems to happen at every single VMworld session I've ever been to, is you get to the end, there's 10 minutes for Q&A. Any questions? Everybody sits on their hands. And then, okay, right, cool, we'll wrap it up. And then immediately a queue starts at the front of the stage. And so the presenter might have another session to go to, and they kind of have to answer lots and lots and lots of questions in no time at all. But yeah, people don't like asking questions generally in front of a crowd. If you can encourage people to do that, then that you're doing a much better job than most presenters do. There will be a Q&A at the end of this session. And yeah, once you get to the end, you've done your Q&A, remind people who you are, because you introduced yourself, you gave your name at the beginning of the session. You've gone all the way through. A lot of people in that session probably don't know who you are. So they might have not really paid any attention to your name or your Twitter account or whatever. They get all the way through, they go, okay, that was a really good presentation. I'd like to ask you some more questions, but maybe this isn't the forum for it. Maybe I want to send you an email or something. Remind people at the end who you are so that they've got a chance to kind of grab those details and they can come back to you. Giving out free Workstation and Fusion licenses to people who ask questions helps. Yeah, I've been there and done that to a lot of people. Unfortunately, yeah, that's probably why I don't work for VMware anymore. So that's the actual, you know, everything that you're planning. You're building your presentation. You've got to the end, and you think, okay, great. I think I'm ready to do this. But I would urge you, especially if it's your first time, but you know, regardless of if it's your first time, do some rehearsal. Now, this could be you set up a free Zoom account and you record your session, and then you watch yourself back and you see how you did for time. You figure out the bits that you might need to trim out, and it will always be things that you need to cut out. You very, very rarely get to the point where you do the rehearsal and go, I need another 15 minutes of content, because you're building this thing that you're passionate about and you want to cram as much in as possible, and you always have to take stuff out. So yeah, you could just wing it, but please don't wing it. Otherwise you'll end up like me. I would not recommend winging it. I've done it a couple of times in my life. Definitely don't wing it if it's your first time. I winged it the first presentation I did, and this was at Northeast VMUG. And one of the things they do at the Northeast VMUG was they open the bar at lunchtime. And so, you know, for the nerves, I was kind of like, okay, well, I'll have a beer. And then I think my session was on, and I think it was the same first VMUG that Christopher Lewis was presenting it as well. So we were both there, both absolutely bricking it. And I was just like, I'll just have a beer. I'll just have another beer. And then I got to 4 o'clock when I was due to go on stage. And I was like, I was pretty relaxed, let's put it that way. And it went really, really well. Apart from the fact that I think that session, it was supposed to be a 40-minute session, and it was basically just an open Q&A about, you know, how people feel about how they develop their careers and things like that. And it was supposed to be 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and it ran for an hour and a half. Now, this was cool because the bar was open. Everyone was just going and grabbing a beer and then joining back in again. So we just kind of ran until people ran out of questions, but I would not recommend it. Probably don't get drunk before doing it as well, unless it's Northeast VMUG, in which case, just go for it. So yeah, record yourself on Zoom. That's a really easy way to do it. There's also, if you've got a fairly modern version of PowerPoint, they've just introduced this new feature called Rehearse with Coach. So you can just talk to your laptop, it will record it, and it will give you analysis. It will tell you where you're speaking too quickly, what your filler words are, and things that you might need to look at. But even if you don't have that version, the rehearse timings capability has been there for some time, so that can be really helpful as well. Most importantly, ask a friend. Everybody, I think I could probably speak for everybody who's here today when I say everybody wants people to succeed. So if you're thinking about doing a presentation, you want to kind of break those nerves a little bit, then a VMUG is a really great place to do it. When you do it for a company, yeah, there's often, you know, people want to chuck you some awkward questions to handle, but at a VMUG, people just want you to succeed. So I would really, really urge you, if it's something that if you're kind of on the fence about doing this, get in touch with the call for papers. I think I've got a slide a little bit later just to repeat what Simon said at the beginning. So we all want to help people succeed, and everybody's super friendly. So even if things go badly, it's cool because you can just go have a beer afterwards. So in terms of equipment, this is less about a list of kit that you need, because everyone uses different equipment. But you know, in terms of your kit, make sure you check all of this stuff. Check it twice, because if you don't, you know, I plugged this in earlier and it's like, okay, it was fine, and then 5 minutes before, yeah, the battery was nearly dead. I don't know how it did that. The battery in this thing lasts months, but there we go. So check everything twice. Check your laptop. Make sure you've closed off any, you know, if you've got any other programs open. You may remember at the beginning, I closed off Slack. I put do not disturb mode on. There's nothing more annoying than when someone's doing a presentation and they've got Outlook popping up in the bottom right corner of the screen, or people getting messages on Teams just saying, you know, what are we doing later? Make sure you've got rid of all of those distractions. If you've got a clicker, make sure it's charged. Make sure you know, you've got your software. If you have any software that it needs, make sure that's running. Using a microphone, make sure again your microphone's plugged in, it's all good. I'm using a lavalier mic here today, but I could just use the mics in these. Lighting is really important as well. And in fact, let me just show you what happens if we don't have lighting. So if I don't have any lighting in this room, because the window is behind me with the sun, so this is what I look like with no lights, which many people would say is an improvement, but it doesn't help you get your message across. So lights is really, really important. That's a really good point as well, Lawrence. If you're at a venue and they have a sound engineer, listen to them. Microphone technique is really important, and a lot of people think they know how to use a microphone, and yeah, they don't, and it can be awful.
The amount of clipping when people just horrendous.
Yeah.
As Kev says,
if you're just tapping your mic or you're banging it on something, it's not good.
As Kev says, if you look at this, lighting is so important, because look at me, I'm now sat in the pitch black because of how I have everything set up. And also, don't go overboard. You can get too distracted with decent lighting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just really important that your audience can see you. So again, if this was in a venue, there would probably be someone there to make sure that you can be seen. If you're doing things on the internet, and I imagine we're still going to be doing things on the internet for at least a little while yet, then make sure you've got that. If you're using a webcam, make sure the webcam is in focus. If you're using one of those really, really horrible, if you're using the built-in webcam on your MacBook Pro, which looks like it's basically covered in Vaseline, please don't use that. Try and get a decent camera. You don't need to go overboard and use a DSLR or anything like that, but having a half decent camera will make a world of difference. And yeah, one of the other things that I've not got on here actually that I thought of earlier today is virtual backgrounds can be really distracting. I know don't lube your webcam. Well, love your webcam, don't lube it. Yeah. Yeah, virtual backgrounds. So I remember way back a year ago when everyone had to start working from home, Zoom virtual backgrounds were the absolute dogs. People were loving them. Now, I think they're fine. If I'm going to use a virtual background, I try to use quite a plain one. This is not a virtual background. This is legit a bunch of my books, and there's some Lego and things like that. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff there. But if you're going to use a virtual background, it's probably not a good idea to move your hands around a lot unless you've got a proper green screen, because the virtual background, it looks nasty. So there's another little free tip for you. I'm going to add that to the mind map after this session. Oh, no, I did have virtual background. Brilliant. Batteries, anything that runs on batteries, make sure they're charged. Make sure you've got a spare pair if you need to be able to hot swap them for anything. And then check your lights again, because the lights really do make, as we've seen, a lot of difference. Anyone going to take a hazard at what the reference is here? Anybody know who that is? I'm disappointed in all you. That is Betty Boo doing the do. Yeah, there we go. Alaric got it just in time. So doing the do, doing the thing that you want to do. You're just going there. You've built all of your presentation is there. You've checked your equipment is ready, and then now it's the moment of truth. So go in there. Before you go in there, go to the toilet. Make sure you've got a drink, and make sure that you've eaten recently. There is nothing worse than getting 10 minutes into a 1-hour presentation and getting a rumble in your tummy. Also, yeah, you're gonna get thirsty, so make sure you've got something to drink. Everyone just pretend I said Kubernetes. And food as well. If your blood sugar's low, you're not gonna give the most energetic of presentations. Make sure you close all your applications, put do not disturb mode on, only have the things running that you need. It's going to minimize the chance that anything else is going to go wrong. Stand if you can. Standing really helps when you're doing a presentation because it allows you to breathe more naturally. Now, if you don't have the option, if you don't have a nice standing desk or something like that, then one of the things you can do is you can just kind of get some Amazon boxes and balance them up. And I've seen, people like Steve Foskett from Tech Field Day, he does exactly that. He's just got a bunch of cardboard boxes that he puts his laptop on top of. That's how he does his standing desk. But it makes a world of difference when presenting if you're able to stand up. And again, breathing. It's if you find yourself trying to fit too many words in, your breathing is going to go to pot, and you're going to have those pregnant pauses that you don't really want to have to deal with. And then all you have to do, walk on stage, there's a round of applause, the lights go up, relax and tell your story. And that's all you need to do. You just have to tell your story. As has been mentioned in here, if you're looking for participation, having some form of swag to give away really helps. Unfortunately, because this is a community session, I don't have any swag to give away, people, but I'm sure there's some prizes to be had at the end of the day, and Andy Nash will definitely win one of them. Do you want to take this bit, Gareth?
Yep. I hate you, Kev. I hate you.
Come on, we love you really, Andy. Again, we've kind of gone on about it, and even during this, I'm going to be honest, my nerves go up and down. I do what Kev does. I panic. I speak fast. And how do you keep those nerves in check? There's so many ways of doing this. You get the good old-fashioned ones of what to focus on and what to focus on. You can probably name the amount of films or animated things you've watched where they say, go view everyone being naked. Trust me, that does not help. I have done that honestly once, and I think that put me off even more. And then you just get in this vicious loop, and you either start smirking or you just cannot get that thought out of your head, and it's just a plane crash. So a few other ones that have helped me throughout time is if you're in a big auditorium and you are genuinely sweating, that the lights on you, it's going to sound strange. I learned this from stage acting. Focus at the back of the room, or find someone at the back of the room, or a person, or now what I'm doing with my camera is focus on that and just keep looking at it. Not only does it help the audience feel you're engaged with them, it can also just help you just calm, relax. You're not getting distracted by the things going on. Here, I've put a sign or something behind your webcam when you're talking into it to keep that focus, keep that gaze. Mine's a picture of my family because it always makes me smile. I look at it, makes you smile. Cheesy as it is, that can really, really, really help. One thing that is, I don't think I can even quantify how much of a good bit of information this came across to me, is that I got to the end of a presentation at, ironically, a VMUG, and someone said to me is, remember audience choice. And I think that is by far the best thing. Ignore all the other things I've just said. All of you here, you've made a choice to sit here to listen to me and Kev. As a presenter, if you get that in your head when you go up on stage, especially if you've got a multi-track event, those people have chosen to come into the room. Those people have chosen to hear what you've got to say. So don't be fearful of them. They're not come there to, get your opinion and then heckle you for it. As Kev says, genuinely with a lot of user groups and even VM worlds and big things like that, people have come to hear your point of view, if that's yours, the company's, or whatever, and they want you to succeed. So I've even had it in one of my talks. Someone's called me out on something partway through, and rather than letting it rattle my cage, gone, well, actually, no, that is another way of doing it. Don't be discouraged by people coming up with things in the middle of your talk. Just because you've done it one way doesn't mean it's right or wrong, whatever, just move on and just go back and reflect on it. But yeah, just view people as your peers and friends, like we are now. You've chosen to come listen to us, and when you get up there, we're hoping that people will do the same with you. And I've just looked at the chat. Put googly eyes on your webcam. That I see again put me off. I would have giggled at that.
One of the other things, actually, especially when you're in kind of like an auditorium setting, so you might have a lot of people all kind of looking at you. And one of the really primal things that happens there is your lizard brain thinks, it kind of makes you feel like you are the prey. So, here's a pack of lions and they're here to eat you. But actually, if you think about how lions work, it's kind of the other way around. They don't go after one animal, they go after all of them. So actually, they're your prey. So just go out and just smash it, basically.
Just slay it. Is that what you're trying to say, Kev? Just slay it.
Oh dear, that's terrible. So we've kind of already mentioned breathing, and the importance of that and the importance of keeping to time. And with that in mind, we do have about 5 minutes. So we are actually getting towards the end of the end of the session, which is cool. I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that. But I just kind of wanted to, once we get to the end of the presentation, so a few things are going to happen. And there's my Kylie Minogue poster. I used to have that when I was a teenager. I had a big thing for everyone had a big thing for Kylie Minogue. Let's face it. But afterwards, a few things are going to happen. First thing that you really need to do, especially if this is your first time and you're not sure if it's something you want to repeat, is you should ask for feedback. And this can be really hard to do because you get to the end and you've got this rush of endorphins. You're kind of like, I did it. I'm going to throw up in the toilet. Please just ask people for feedback, and they will, if they will give you that feedback, it can be really helpful. If you go to a session at an event and there's a survey at the end of that session, please fill it in with honest feedback, because it's the only way people get to improve. So do solicit for feedback. And then immediately sign up to do another talk, because you've still got those endorphins going through. So come back once you've gone and thrown up in the toilet, come back, find out somewhere where you can sign up and do another talk, because just having something there that will kind of focus your mind and say, okay, right, well, I've done this, I'm going to do something else now. It can help you really improve, instead of going, okay, I've done it, I don't know if I want to do that again. I'll see how I feel in 6 months. If you do that, you'll get to 6 months and you're basically right back at the beginning again. It's that cycle of continuous improvement, really. And close the loop. Make sure everybody understood what you were trying to get across. If there are any questions and you're not sure if you answered them properly during the Q&A, try and find that person after the event and just kind of say, okay, well, maybe there's something for both of you to learn at that point in time. I think the next slide is Gareth. Yeah, okay. He really wanted to. God, that GIF does not animate very well, does it?
It works fine on my end. Oh, that's rubbish. Oh, see, that takes the beauty away.
Honestly, it worked fine for me as well. So worked fine in test. It's an ops problem now.
This is one where, again, when you're doing talks, I'm trying to keep it light, keep it fun as well. But for me, public speaking, I try and compare it a bit to like muscle builders, and everyone's like, "What are you going on about?" For me, they've got a lot of confidence, a lot of charisma, and they're really good at what they do. And for me, I think public speaking is the same. You get stronger and stronger with every session you do. And you'll build confidence the more and more. You rep. I just do it just for the laugh. Get the guns out. But it's true, and the more and more you do this, I really made Kev spit his tea. That was worth it. It's just one of those things, I'm going back to, ironically, doing some strength training in that now, and it just makes you think the more and more you do it, the stronger you get. And, even with that as well, when you are training for those kind of things, you will have bad days. You will have days that will suck. It will be painful. You'll mess up. Don't worry about it. You may do a presentation and you do go over time, which we might well do today, but that is the beauty of it. You get better and better, even on the bad days. And, don't try and, split a log in two in one go. That was the reason I used the GIF, Kev, just so you know. Don't aim for the big leagues. It's fine to start small. Don't think you've got to snap, a whole log into. If it's a stick, chatting with some friends or whatever, go for it. You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the more you do it, the better you get. I'm very conscious myself that there's a lot I can do to improve. And actually, just since we've got a few seconds, I just wanted to plug some books. So Persuasive Presentations by Nancy Duarte, or Duarte, I don't know how it's pronounced, but that is a really good book about the theories that help people to get messages across. And also by the same person, there's Resonate, which is again about building really compelling really compelling presentations. And finally, Slideology, again, same person. They all kind of talk about how PowerPoint is basically the worst thing to happen to presentations, because people become overly rigid in how they structure things, and there's lots and lots in in all of those books. They're not the cheapest, but they're definitely worth investing in. On that note, we've got less than a minute, so this is a perfect opportunity for me to roll out the next GIF, which is the Q&A GIF. So yeah, that's awesome. So if anyone has any questions, I think there's been a bunch kind of coming through as we've been going. I think we've probably covered most of them. Let's have a look. Only got 31 watchers now. How's the nerves? To be honest, I get more nervous with smaller crowds. So, once you get to the point where there are lights required, and so you can't really see the people, I find them a lot easier. The smaller events, if you've got 5, 10, 15 people, it really feels a lot more intense. So they're still a lot of fun, but I get more nervous in that way. Yeah, I went silent. That's all good. Prep. Yep, swag. Good tip there from Chris around the rehearse timings. Yeah, it's just one of the options that you've got there. I still prefer to click through myself. Toastmasters, Dave. I know Dave is he's a big fan of Toastmasters. He's been doing a lot with them. And Presentations Zen by Gar Reynolds. I shall check that one out.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. The final, almost final slide. We are over now. I'm going to blame Gareth for this one. Is yeah, I do appear to have some lag going on here. I'm really sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on. It's my MacBook has just decided that it's time to. It's the end of the workday or something. Again, just a reminder for the call for papers that Simon mentioned earlier. The VMUG absolutely thrives when the audience joins in. It's a really, really great place to learn your craft, and it can be really, really good for your career and just in general for it's good lols. Everyone's really friendly. So please, if you've got a story to tell, do submit it through the call for papers site there. And on that note, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to remind you who I am and who Gareth is when my slide flips over. Come on, I can't even blame Workspace ONE for this. There we go. So I'm at Kev_Johnson on Twitter. Gareth is at Gareth Edwards 86. And it's a good job I didn't put my year of birth in there anyway. Let's put it that way. Otherwise, this could be embarrassing. But thank you very much for your time. I hope it's been helpful. I'm going to hang around. I'm going to turn the camera off and try and find out what's going on with the video. Oh, it's already off. Right, brilliant.
It's already died for some reason.
Yeah, I think I've got a temperature thing going on here. But yeah, okay, thanks very much, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Cool, thanks very much. Kev, you live in the north, so I'm not entirely certain you have got a temperature thing.
It's a temperature thing.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. That was really useful. And I'll try and remember some of those tips in my blurb I'm about to make.